You are the best striker in the world, but you are the worst one of the 2022 World Cup. While the tournament is still going on, you announce that Manchester United betrayed you and that you have no respect for your manager, and you are officially sacked by the club. In the match against Uruguay, Bruno Fernandes swings in a cross. You jump to head the ball, but it goes straight into the net on its own. You claim the goal even though you never touched it. Your team's best match of the tournament is the one where you are on the bench. While your eternal rival dominates the tournament, you cry because you are eliminated, and your own nation has officially turned against you. You are Ronaldo. And this is just one of the worst strikers of 2022. Now let's go back to the beginning. In the summer of 2021, you returned to Manchester United, the club where you shone and the whole world came to know you. At the age of 36, after a disappointing season at Juventus, your goal was to finish your career beautifully here. Despite your age, you were having a pretty solid season. You saved your team in several matches. On top of that, scoring 6 goals in 8 World Cup qualifying matches during this period was a clear sign that you were a serious contender for the tournament. When the season ended, you had broken numerous club and individual records. However, this season went down in history as the first season since 2010 in which you finished without a trophy. But it did not matter at all, because your real target was the 2022 World Cup. This was perhaps your last World Cup adventure, and no matter what, you had to win it. Then the 2022 season began, but this season, you gave an interview that would perhaps lead to you being torn apart at the World Cup. I have no respect for Ten Hag. Yes, you said exactly that. The way you humiliated Manchester United's manager at the time caused a huge uproar. You also stated that the club had made no progress since Sir Alex Ferguson, and that the technology, the swimming pools, the gym, and even the kitchen were all stuck in the past. That was not enough. For your former teammate Rooney, who had been criticizing you, you said, "I don't know why he criticizes me so much. It's probably because he has retired from football and I am still playing at the highest level." On top of all this, Manchester United officially sacked you from the club while the World Cup was still going on. And perhaps due to all these events, your mental state was shattered before heading to what was possibly the last World Cup of your career. On top of that, in mid-2022, one of your newborn twin babies passed away, and this deeply affected your state of mind as well. You were also under enormous pressure from a large number of your own supporters. Then the 2022 World Cup began. Your first match was against Ghana. The game started fast. In the 30th minute, you scored a beautiful goal, but it was disallowed for a foul. In the 65th minute, as you were running onto a perfect pass laid off by your teammate, you went down and a penalty was awarded. You stepped up to the spot and, just like always, you drove it into the bottom left corner. Goal. Appreciate the value of this goal. Who knows, perhaps you will not score again in this tournament. In the 73rd minute, Andre Ayew equalized. The sadness on your face said it all. But in the 78th minute, João Felix, and just 2 minutes later, Leão, scored to put you 3-1 ahead. In the 89th minute, Osman Bukhari pulled one back to make it 3-2, but you still won. You had scored and you had won, yet your attitude on the pitch drew all eyes onto you. You were literally walking around the pitch and reacting strangely to every situation. You stayed on the field for 88 minutes yet ended up as your team's worst player with a rating of 6.4. But with that goal, you broke the record of being the only player to score at 5 different World Cups. Though that goal was only the beginning of your downfall, your second match was against Uruguay. You had broken that historic record in the Ghana game, but the relentless "I am still the best" monster inside you was not satisfied. The media was talking about your reluctance on the pitch, your walking pace, and how you were dragging down your team's dynamism. You were clubless. The pain of losing your child was burning your heart, and you were desperate to prove yourself to the world. In the 54th minute of the match, Bruno Fernandes swung in a cross, and you made one of those legendary leaps of yours, the kind that defies gravity. You floated through the air and stretched to head the ball. The ball hit the net, and in that moment, to silence all the Manchester United hatred and everyone who had been criticizing you, you sprinted to the stands. You claimed the goal and pointed to your head saying, "I scored it." You floated through the air and stretched ahead, but this was not 2010. Technology had advanced. It was determined that you had not touched the ball, and the goal was awarded to Bruno. You won the match with Bruno's last-minute penalty. But after the game, the world's press mocked you. You had turned into a figure who seemed to be on the pitch not to score goals, but simply to feed his ego. Your final group match was against South Korea. You thought it would be an easy game because Korea was genuinely far below your team's level. The match kicked off, but on the pitch you were like a ghost. Passes were slipping away from you, and you were clearly showing that not a trace of your old sharp form remained. On top of this performance, Fernando Santos gave the instruction in the 65th minute, and the number 7 appeared on the substitution board. You were not used to being taken off at a World Cup. Perhaps that is why your ego was shaken and your face fell. Suddenly you began making angry gestures toward your manager Fernando Santos and shouting at him. It was said that you shouted, "How quick he is to take me off. He has no right to tell me that. He should be quiet." At that moment everyone watching the match was in shock, and the eyes of the supporters turned toward the post-match interview you were about to give. In the interview, you explained that your reaction was not directed at your manager, but at a South Korean player who told you to leave the pitch more quickly. Santos also closed the matter by stating that there was no problem between the two of you. But only you and the people there can truly know what really happened in that moment. The reason I say this is that in an interview Santos gave in 2023, he mentioned that he had not spoken to you since the World Cup. Regardless, this match, which was full of incidents, ended in great disappointment. South Korea beat you 2-1. However, this changed nothing for you. You finished the group stage in first place and advanced to the round of 16. The next match was against Switzerland. Although it was said that the substitution controversy from the South Korea game was over, Portugal's in-game problems and the media pressure on them did not seem to have gone away. Because when match day arrived, Santos left you on the bench, saying it was purely a tactical choice. This was the shock of being a substitute for the national team for the first time in a long while. Although this was described as a tactical decision, perhaps you were now paying the price for your behavior in the Korea match. Before the game kicked off, the cameras were on you, not on the pitch, but capturing your sullen expression on the substitute's bench. Who knows? Perhaps at that moment you may have even wanted things to go slightly wrong for Portugal. But that is not what happened. Portugal played their best match of the World Cup up to that point. The 21-year-old Gonçalo Ramos, who started in the first 11 in your place, pulled off a completely unexpected hat-trick. In my opinion, at that moment you must have thought your place had been taken and that you were no longer needed. Your team was playing the most dominant football of the tournament, and you came on in the 73rd minute. But you had no impact on the scoreline. Your team's 6-1 victory over Switzerland without you, combined with your failure to contribute a goal, had handed the media the argument that you were no longer a first 11 player. Right after this match, bombshell news hit the media. Ronaldo threatened to leave the camp and quit the national team when he learned he was on the bench. This news exploded onto the agenda. However, without wasting any time, you and the officials released a joint statement denying the story and made clear that such a thing would never be possible. In the quarter-final, the opponent was Morocco, a team that had conceded almost no goals throughout the tournament. Santos did not break up the winning squad and started you on the bench once again. Toward the end of the first half, En-Nesyri rose magnificently to put Morocco ahead. The commentator was losing his mind. En-Nesyri Airlines in the skies over Al Rayyan. You watched the goal from the substitutes bench with a heavy heart. But do not worry. This time you came on in the 51st minute and put on the captain's armband. Now you had every opportunity in your hands to tear down all the criticism that had been thrown at you throughout the season. But things were not going well for you or your team. The fading voices of the Portuguese supporters with every passing minute and the dropping tempo of the game were clear signs of that. Perhaps if you were 25 years old, you could have curled in a legendary long-range goal and won the match. But those days were behind you now. And at that moment there was no one else on the pitch who could do it in your place. Your team created a few more chances, but unfortunately the final whistle blew. At that moment everything was over for you. This was perhaps your last World Cup, and you had been eliminated at the quarter-final stage. That was probably why you suddenly could not hold back your tears. You walked out through the corridor in tears. You were not crying just because you had been eliminated. You were crying for the bitter exit from Manchester United, for the unbearable weight of losing your child, and for the moment you finally came face to face with a truth that no amount of professionalism can delay forever. That one day, every man loses his fight against time. Perhaps as you wept in that corridor, your entire career flashed before your eyes like a film reel. You remembered that very first moment in 2006, when, as a young boy, you stepped onto the World Cup stage alongside Figo, and the days you carried Portugal all the way to the semi-finals. You had scored at 5 different World Cups and rewritten history. But now, in the cold tunnels of Qatar, in the shadow of those legendary triumphs of your past, you were face to face with the heaviest farewell of your career. In this video, we took the most detailed look at Ronaldo's 2022 adventure and downfall. Don't forget to subscribe, hit like, and leave a comment. See you in the next video. Goodbye.